for watching. Thank you for those of you that have followed me on YouTube or Instagram. I know we have a very modest following, but welcome to Chasing the Apex. And I want to kind of talk about the goals of what we're trying to do here. What we're really looking for is this ideal driving experience. Every manufacturer calls themselves the perfect driver's car, or it's built for the road, or it's built to be this ultimate driving experience. But that's not always truth. And so what's happened and kind of how we got here was, as you can see behind me, we have a 2018 Alfa Romeo 4C, and it's a wonderful car, carbon fiber monocoque. She's got about 1,500 miles. She's a canyon rat, and when I run her pretty hard, and I flog her. And really, she's very track designed. And I come from a motorcycle background. Just so you know a little bit about my background, I've got a lot of track time on a bike, and I've got a lot of road time on a bike, and I've got a few driving schools under my belt, but nothing significant. So I'm truly your average guy, and I want to talk about that a little bit, because what occurred and how we got to where we were was, I was on a forum and I was talking about the Alfa Romeo 4C and how new to it I was, and there was some challenge to a tuner, and his name is Edward Poggia, as to whether or not his product was really as good as he claimed. And I just responded. I said, hey, I'll give it a shot. And it was a brand new car at the time, and so there's some risk in that because it's warranty related and things like that. But he agreed, but his stipulations were very simple. Tell the truth. It has to be on a Mustang dyno, and you have to document it. And prior to this, I had no experience with social media. I am a writer, I do hobby as a writer, and I've got a few books published, and I've had several white papers published, and I've had lots of short stories, lots of poems published, and always a driver or a writer in spirit, not in practice of documentation. And so, but I thought, okay, this is a challenge, and I'm going to do this. I had never taken out an ECU from an Alfa Romeo 4C. I had never sent one in FedEx. I had never received one back. And it was a wonderful experience. And it was exactly as he described. 300 horsepower to the crank is what the Poggia Racing tune did. And that's a stage 1 tune. And people will say, well, Jason, he gave it to you, so that's why you're saying all these wonderful things. And I'm telling you, no. We agreed, and he stipulated that I would tell the truth, and I've stuck with that ever as I've went through these machinations of vehicles and products. After which, top coat, like many of you guys, I'm sure, I decided, hey, I'm going to try this top coat stuff. If you've seen it on Facebook or if you've seen it on Instagram. And it actually turned the paint to my Alfa Romeo a pink. There's some kind of chemical reaction that occurred. It was very, very strange. And I was documenting it on Instagram, and I'm like, hey man, this is really weird. And I was really unhappy with their product, but not so unhappy that I was going to blast them or complain to them. But a gentleman named Jay from Prestige Society reached out and he goes, hey man, let me take a look at it. And I do mobile detailing, and let's put, a real ceramic coat on it. And I thought, okay, sure. He goes, but you got to document it. You got to tell the truth, and you got to let people know if I did a good or bad job. And that's a theme, right? Is this good or bad job? And I thought, hey man, let's do that. And so we did. And it turned out wonderfully. It's a Rosso Competizione, which means it has a gold coat, like a gold flake and a gold underneath coat to it, and it's really beautiful. And if I have a complaint about this car, a really, really big complaint, it's that the paint is very, very thin. But that got me thinking, right? So what else is out there, right? As a motorcyclist, I don't really care what a bike looks like. I care what it does, because generally the bike is more talented than I am, and especially on a track, because you can be a fast guy on the street or in a canyon, but as soon as you hit the track, that's a whole level of perception of speed that changes things. And so I was getting ready to start a track day with this car. I started to receive a following, an influx of followers on Instagram, and I thought, man, wouldn't it be cool if I got all these enthusiasts like some truth, because they liked truth and they were fans of Lamborghini and Ferrari, Alfa Romeo and Lotus. And I did some quick videos and I gave away an Alfa Romeo hat, and I thought that was really cool, and it was cool for them, to get this swag. And I thought that was, man, really awesome that I could do that for these people, for these fans. But the manufacturers were not helpful. You hearing me, manufacturers? And I know you don't care. And I was dealing with dealers. Sometimes a dealer or somebody I would know would ask me to drive their car and write about it. And I thought, hey man, that's cool. I'm going to drive and write about these cars. I'm nobody though. I mean, let's be honest with you. I mean, it kind of took me off guard. I'm nobody special. I'm not an auto blogger. I'm not a YouTuber, and I'm not a Facebooker. And that wasn't my intent, and wasn't my intent to ever be one. But here we are today. And so I reached out to Lotus because they were starting the Evija, or they were going to release the Evija. And I thought, well, that's cool. What's that about? And a gentleman named Simon from Lotus Hub contacted me back. And we got to chatting, and we started discussing driving and what I thought the problems were with dealerships, which is really, you go on this 10-second or 2.5-minute dealer test drive, and you're expected to love this car. But I got to tell you, had I driven the Alfa 4C on a dealer test drive, I really would have handed the keys right back, because it just wouldn't have fit. But because I actually had the opportunity to drive it in a spirited fashion, that's where I started to fall in love. And the reason I reached out to Lotus was, in particular, it's pretty obvious that the Alfa Romeo 4C is based off that Lotus idea where the driver matters. And Alfa Romeo actually took a lot of loss on the vehicles when they shipped them here. It obviously wasn't designed to make money. It was their halo car. It was their marketing. And I just happened to be a lucky owner. But as the more I talked to Simon, and we discussed things, it was, hey, look, can I test, one of your cars? And, if I like it, and I genuinely mean this, and I mean this today, I'll willingly convert my Alfa 4C into a Lotus. And what impressed me about Lotus was the passion behind what they were discussing, and how they were going to go forward, and what they were trying to do. And that was really put the driver behind the wheel, and they didn't have to do much talking because the car did it. So now you're talking about a major manufacturer, and I understand that some of you guys are going to say, well, they've had financial problems and they're recovering and they weren't profitable till 2017. I get it. You're still talking about an exotic car manufacturer that went to the average guy and said, yeah, man, we're going to find you a car and you're going to drive it. And we don't have to do a lot of talking about it because our cars do the talking. Again, Peugeot Racing, Prestige Society, and now Lotus is saying, but they say, tell the truth, tell us what's wrong with it, and be open. And there's no obligation for me to convert, but there's a reality there. If it's a better driver's car, I want to know it, and I want to buy it, and I want it to be mine. I test drove a Miata, and I was like, oh my God, for $25,000, I was blown away. That's a fun car. And the Miata drinking Kool-Aid drinkers, I understand now what they're on about. But I wouldn't have known it unless I drove a Miata, unless I spent time in the Miata. And there's a getting to know each other process there that manufacturers don't really allow, and at least here stateside. And that's funny too, because as we're talking about manufacturers and dealers own the vehicles, manufacturers manufacture the vehicles and market the vehicles. But let's be realistic, the dealer owns the vehicle. And so while in Europe, going out on a spirited driver to a track day may be how you test a car. Good idea, by the way. I'd love to see something like that here. That's not how they do it in the United States. They suspect that you're going to know what you want when you walk in the door. Well, I have 800 horsepower cars available to me. And, if you're an old man like me, just a 43-year-old nobody, how am I spending my money when I start spending this excess of $43,000? Well, generally, there are other things to consider. We're talking about, can I take my wife to the store in it? Can my wife drive it? Or can my girlfriend drive it? Can my children drive it? And the toy factor kind of goes away for most of us. And I've owned a couple Corvettes, and that's kind of what they are. They are little treasures that sit in your garage, and you drive once in a while, unless you daily drive a vet, and I'm impressed with that. And, Corvette owners don't necessarily aren't necessarily interested in driving them, and that's part of the dichotomy of it all. You own a high-end sports car that you don't want to drive because that is your trophy. So when we start talking about that and we look at Lotus as an organization, they say, we're going to go find you, the average guy, the 43-year-old guy with a normal job, a press car to drive because you're what we want to see driving our car. And we sell our cars by letting our cars talk first. That's impressive. Now, I've had some problems with dealers though, because dealers, there's only so much control a man has. And I understand salespeople. You don't want me to waste your time. But if I'm a driver and you take me 2 exits down, I know nothing about the car. And then there's manufacturers that won't even talk to me. So there's that as well. But how are you not impressed with an organization that goes, yeah, we recognize that you have to drive our cars to understand them. And so that's where we are. We're looking at a possible Lotus press car, an Evora GT. And if that goes well, I am happy to convert. And as a matter of fact, it could have been Lotus, it could have been McLaren, it could have been Ferrari, it could have been Lamborghini. But those guys didn't have the time of day for the common man. You know who did? Lotus. And that matters. And so when we start talking about things like that, and they're like, yeah, we fly customers out to Heathrow all the time and put them on their track. Wow, that's impressive. You can keep your champagne, and you can keep your opening night, and you can keep your black tie event. You're putting me on the track? That's what I want to hear. That's why I think all drivers would want to hear that. Put me on the track. And so that's truly impressive. But that's kind of where we are, kind of where we're going. If I test the GT, I like it, I will go buy a Lotus. And the reality is what will I do with that Lotus? I can tell you what one of my friends that's a tuner says, Baines, Gary from Baines Tuning would tell you, that car needs nothing for it. Buy it, take it to the track. And that's a pretty powerful statement coming from a tuner. And so that's my first plan, is if the GT goes well and we can find a Lotus within reasonable price range, and they'll take the Alpha, then I'm going to take that car, whatever it is, to the track, and I'm going to see what she can really do. And then after that, well, we'll just have to see. But maybe we'll do a road trip in her. I was also thinking about doing something like Pikes Peak. When I say Pikes Peak, I don't mean entering Pikes Peak as a racer, but definitely driving the vehicle from here to Pikes Peak, because that's what I was talking about doing in the Alfa Romeo 4C. But stay tuned, and I'm sorry that my content is inconsistent, and I'm sorry my video editing is still being worked on. I admit I need some help. Help me, please comment. Tell me how to fix it, please. And if you can help me, help you. So it's my intent at some point to gather swag from somebody, whether it be a mechanic shop, a car dealership, or a manufacturer wants to donate some more things. I would like to get some swag for you fans of those brands. And I'd like to do giveaways on them. That way you understand the manufacturers do care. And I think there is a delta between what the manufacturer wants and what the dealer wants. And I believe there are manufacturers out there that are for the drivers, and they are for you. They are producing high-end, powerful sports cars, with trickle-down Formula One technology designed for you. And so we're going to do another video before I leave to go test the GT, because I'm not exactly sure where that is, because the reality is I'm not a big YouTuber, and I'm not a big Instagrammer, and I'm not a big Facebooker, and I've only been doing this a few months. I'm not really high on the priority list, but I am grateful that I'm on the list. I'm grateful that somebody cares enough to bring truth to you guys. So do me a favor, like the video, follow me, right? Especially if you want to see more, and share this, please, and especially comment and help me get better. I got it. I'm not a Doug DeMiro. I'm not a VinWiki. I am your average driver, and we are just going to go for it and see what happens. But please understand, this isn't my job. This is a wonderful, wonderful hobby, though. And I have no intent on making money off this. And if I do ever make money off of it, it's going to go directly back to you guys somehow, some way, some shape, some form. And that's my intent, you know. But to answer any questions or concerns, or if you have questions for me, please comment below. I'll be happy to answer them. And I hope to bring you more regular content. And in the next video, and you can probably hear my dogs barking in the background, that's how normal I am. I haven't even cleaned up my garage for you guys. I mean, I got my elliptical here. That's how much of a normal dude I am. And I want to show you guys that. There's no stage lighting. There's no, you know, beautiful set. I'm just a normal guy. Anyways, thank you for watching. Again, please like, follow, share, and comment. And we'll see you soon while we chase the apex. Thank you.